Hello there and welcome to another Python tutorial series. This one will be covering how you can build your own Twitter bot. And normally you would like to start with a certain objective for your bot. So maybe you would like to post tweets every hour. You might want to reply to certain tweets, follow users, direct messaging, block people, whatever you want to do. But you need to have some objective in mind. And from my point of view, as I don't know what your objective is, this tutorial series will cover everything that's possible to do with the API, and you can decide what's useful for you and what's not. So this was kind of a short introduction on what you can expect. So a lot of topics will be covered, not to create one bot by me, but to give you all these separate parts that you can assemble and create your own bot. By the end of this series, you should have sufficient knowledge to do that. And of course, if in the meantime you have any questions or comments, you can always post them in the comment section below. Now, before we start with all these actions that the bot can do, we need to do a few things regarding the installation and setup. And that's indeed what we're going to do in the remaining part of this tutorial. As you can see on my screen, there is a profile that I'll be using over the course of this series. It's a profile named TweePy testing. TweePy or Tweepy is the library that we're going to be using. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the pronunciation, as my goal is to make sure that stuff works. And if you want to pronounce it TweePy or Tweepy, I leave that to you. And just make sure that you're happy with the pronunciation yourself. So what we need to do is, of course, first we need a Twitter profile. We have that. And the next step is we need to go to the website developer.twitter.com. Now, what we need to do here is go to developer portal. And this developer portal actually allows us to create an app. And you can think of this app like a bridge between your Twitter account and the user of the API, of the Twitter API. So as part of these projects and apps, as part of the overview, if you're using this for the first time, this should be completely empty, but you need to create a standalone app by clicking on the Create App button. And of course, you need to provide a unique name. This one apparently is taken, so you won't be able to use this one. I've named my app Testing TweePy Library, and once you do that, which would not take more than a minute or two, it should stay here on the left side. It should pop up and be listed. So now what is it that we need from this part? First of all, as part of the settings, there's app permissions, which means whoever has the credentials that are stored as part of these keys and tokens, which is something that we will look at next, would have the permission to do certain stuff based on these permissions. So you might want to allow whoever has the credentials to, for example, only read tweets and profile information. And this might be suitable if you give the credential to someone to use the Twitter account, but not to post tweets. So think of these permissions and what you would like to allow this app to do. In my example, I would actually use all these. So I would allow reading, writing, and direct messaging, as all of those things would be covered in this tutorial series. So make sure that you have the right permissions. And then once we have that, we are going to move to these keys and tokens part of the app. And this is basically what you need in order to connect the library, the Twitter profile through the library to the Python file. Here there are a few sections. So we have the consumer keys and the authenticating tokens, and we're going to use both. So we need to store both, and these are something that you need to keep, let's say, more secret, because if someone has this information and, for example, this setting is allowing the user of this app to read, write, and direct messaging, then that person can do all of those stuff because he or she has the keys and tokens. So what does the setup include? Consumer keys, I think the first time that you create an app, this would state as generate and not regenerate, but it pops out a few So it pops out a key and key secret, and these of course you should not share. Now I'm sharing them because it's good for you to see the whole process from beginning to end, and also the account that I'm using is for this purpose. So what we're going to do next is we're going to create an empty Python file, and I'll keep this a bit short. So we need to import TweePy, the library that we're going to use, and this is the installation, or we can also say access to Twitter account. So we need consumer key, consumer secret. We have also access token and access token secret. And these four are actually extracted from this part of the website. So first, API key. This is the consumer API key. There we go. So we're pasting it, the key secret. So by clicking on the button, is being copied to the clipboard, and make sure you have these copied before you click yes, I've saved them, because once you do that, you can no longer take a look at them again. You only have to click on the regenerate, which would generate completely new ones. And if you're the only user, this is not that bad. You can just copy paste them again. But if there are multiple people using the same app, then you need to inform them about the new keys and secrets. So you might want to be cautious when you click this button. And then as part of the authentication tokens, we need to regenerate or generate the access token and secret. And the process is exactly the same. So access token, access token secret. And there are 3 more lines of code that we need to add in order to be ready to use the API, the Twitter API. So the next line is AUTH. That's equal to tweetpy.o, capital O, A, capital A, UTH. So O, AUTH, so short for authenticate, and then capital H, handler. So in the brackets, in this first line, you're going to pass the consumer key and consumer secret. And next to that, we need to use the access token and secret. And for that, we're going to use auth.set access token. These are all lowercase, and in the brackets, access token and access token secret. And the last line is our API, which would be equal to tweetpy.api and in brackets auth. Although this is sufficient, so if you do this, that would be perfectly fine. You can use the API already, and that's something that we will be covering in the next videos. But of course, this is the first step. If we don't cover this, then you won't be able to use the API. There is one more thing that can be added here, and that is wait on rate limit. By default, it is false, so it doesn't wait on rate limit. What this does is it checks have we reached the Twitter limit, and if we have, then it waits until that's no longer the case and it continues. So in which cases would you like this to be true? For example, if it's in production, maybe if it's some bot that you're already running, you don't want it to crash, then you might want to have it have the wait on rate limit to be equal to true. But on the other side, if you're in the testing phase and you want to see when this limit is going to be reached, you might want to actually just completely remove this one. You don't have to set it to false. So to understand at what point is the limit reached. So once you have this, it's less than 10 lines of code. You actually have everything that you need. So of course, first install the TweetPy library, and then pass these information that are coming from the developer website of Twitter. And if you have this done, then the next video is where we start with using the API on for example, changing. We'll start with something that's probably less useful, like the changing or updating the profile info, but then we will cover posting tweets, reacting to tweets, replying to tweets, following users, and a lot of these stuff that are actually useful that would allow you to build your own bot. So this would be all regarding the first video. I hope that you're excited and you would like to build your own bot that would do whatever you want it to do. Maybe you would like to troll your friend, that's also fine, by posting random stuff to his profile until you get blocked probably, but then, well, that's life I guess. But anyway, thank you for following and I'll see you in the next video.